What up, 49er Empire? What's going down YouTube? It's JD with Hawk Hater TV. Now, most of you are going to be seeing this video on Monday. I'm actually recording this Sunday night, but this Monday marks the first day of free agency in the NFL. Not official, but it's the period that they call legal tampering. Guys can start talking to free agents, setting up contracts, that whole deal. So by the time you're seeing this video, the 49ers are in deep discussions with tons of free agents around the league. And I wanted to come to you guys today with my thoughts on who the 49ers should pursue in free agency, especially coming off the heels of the Richard Sherman signing. That changes a lot from what the 49ers are going to do in this free agency period with all that cap space that they have. You see, now that they signed Richard Sherman, they're out of the race for Trumaine Johnson, a guy that they were rumored to be heavy in talks with or have heavy interest in the free agency period. But now, with Richard Sherman in the fold, I don't expect that at all. I think, as far as the cornerback situation goes, I don't think that they're done at corner just because they got Richard Sherman. You see, Richard Sherman is coming off that big Achilles injury. No guarantee that he's ready to start camp, even though reports are saying he will be, but you just don't know. You don't know if he's going to have setbacks. You don't know conditioning. There's a ton of factors. And with Richard Sherman, you want to take every precaution to protect this investment. So if I'm the 49ers, I'm not done at cornerback in free agency. I think we could go after some lower tier guys, and I'm going to give you a couple names here. I think Rashaan Melvin from the Indianapolis Colts is a possibility. He brings that size that the Niners are looking for. You could also look to a guy like Prince Amukamara from the Chicago Bears. He's a guy who played under Robert Saleh in Jacksonville. Again, another guy with that size and can come a little bit cheaper. And then also, if the Niners want to go a little bit cheaper, they can look at a guy like Bashaud Breeland from the Redskins. He's not exactly the height that they want, but he plays big. He plays big, and he's going to come cheaper. Physical guy, and I think he could fit in well with the scheme that we have, and also with the value. I think these corners that I named are good value picks with the Niners at this point, having already invested so much money possibly into Richard Sherman, depending on escalators and incentives and that whole deal. Now, as far as the other holes on this team, and they have a few. Running back is one for sure. Carlos Hyde is set to be a free agent. If you looked at my old video from a few weeks back, you'll see that I'm not a fan of Carlos Hyde coming back to this team. So, with Matt Breida and Joe Williams as the only tailbacks on this team that figure to get playing time, you got to think that they're going to look in free agency and most likely the draft to fill the running back need. But if they go in free agency and want to pick up a tailback, here's a few names that I want Niner fans to look at. First and foremost, you want to look at a guy like Dion Lewis. He brings the threat to this team that the other running backs don't have, and that's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield and do it all. Dion Lewis is familiar with Jimmy Garoppolo. Dion Lewis will fit this zone running scheme perfectly. And, he's a guy that I don't think is going to command a ton of money. He's going to command a little bit, but I think the Niners can afford him, and I think he might want to come here and play with this dynamic offense and reunite with Jimmy G. Another guy the Niners could look at, Jerick McKinnon, Minnesota Vikings. He's a guy who filled in well for Adrian Peterson over the years when Adrian Peterson was having injuries and the like. He's a guy who's young. I believe he's 25 years old, and he's going to want his shot. And I think if the Niners can bring him in, I think he has the ability to be a lead back. Wherever he goes, I think Jerick McKinnon could end up being a stud. And I don't think he's going to command top tier money. I think he's going to be a guy, again, that the Niners could get value in if they bring him in here. Another guy that the Niners could look at, or I would like them to look at, and I haven't seen a lot of Niner fans talk about this, don't mind the siren, Rex Burkhead, New England Patriots. He only signed a one-year deal out there in New England. He's a free agent. He's kind of like a poor man's Dion Lewis. He can do it all. He can run between the tackles. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a free agent. He knows Jimmy G, and he'll come even cheaper than Dion Lewis. I think Rex Burkhead is a guy the Niners should, definitely look at. If I had my choice, I think we should go after Rex Burkhead and then take a guy in the draft, because this draft class is absolutely stacked with running backs. But the closer we get to the draft, you'll see who I want in the draft at running back. But as far as free agency goes, if I had my choice, I would go Rex Burkhead. Another guy you could look at, on the outside looking in, could be a guy like Isaiah Crowell. He's familiar with Kyle Shanahan with their time together in Cleveland. I think Crowell's going to command a little bit more money than the Niners are going to want to spend. So those are a few guys that the Niners could look at that I would like them to at least kick the tires on and see what kind of contract we're looking at. Now, here is perhaps the most fun part of free agency for the Niners, and that's the wide receiver class. This year's wide receiver class has a lot of big names, and perhaps the biggest name and the name that I want on this team more than any other free agent out there, Allen Robinson, Jacksonville Jaguars. The kid is a downfield threat. He has size, he has speed, he has hands, athletic ability. He can go up and get it in the red zone. I mean, he is an absolute stud, a day one, number one receiver if he comes on this team. It'll be the most physically imposing receiver this team has had since Terrell Owens. And yeah, you could say Anquan Bolden, but he didn't have the speed and athletic ability that Allen Robinson has. Now, I know Allen Robinson is coming off of that big ACL injury week 1 last year, but he's 24, 25 years old. He's young. He can recover from that injury and regain his old form. I am not worried about that. I want the Niners to get Allen Robinson in the absolute worst way, people. So if you're a Niner fan, do your homework on Allen Robinson, and I think you'll agree with me. Now, another couple of guys that the Niners could possibly look at, Sammy Watkins of the St. Louis Rams. You know, if they want to get a guy who's a pure burner, you know, has experience in the division, knows the Rams, knows the enemy, they could go after him. But I feel like Allen Robinson is the target, and all reports are saying they're going hard after Allen Robinson in this free agency period, and that's what I want. So Sammy Watkins, hey, it'd be nice, but if I had my choice, no thanks. Now, if they want to go with a smaller guy, if they want to go with some smaller guys that can create separation, a lot like Kyle Shanahan likes to have in his scheme, I think you could look at a guy like Taylor Gabriel out of the Atlanta Falcons, who Kyle Shanahan is familiar with during his time there as the offensive coordinator. You could also look at a guy, and this is a bargain bin guy that I haven't heard a lot of Niner fans, you know, talk about on social media and the like, John Brown. John Brown, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. Speedster guy, you know, he has big play potential. He's had over 1,000 yards in a season during his time in Arizona, but he's been battling some injuries as of late. So if he's healthy and he wants to come in here on a team-friendly deal, I'm all for it. He's already been, you know, kind of petitioning on Twitter about coming here because, you know, of Jimmy Garoppolo. So John Brown would be a guy I think the Niners could get on the cheap if they miss out on Allen Robinson and want to get a burner down the field. So yeah, those are kind of the guys that stick out to me at wide receiver. And lastly, the other hole on this team that's one of the biggest needs overall, and that's offensive line. The big name in free agency and offensive line is guard Andrew Norwell from the Carolina Panthers. All indications are he's going to be going to the New York Giants. And, you know, honestly, even if he wasn't, and you know, if the Niners really had a shot at this guy, I think he's just going to be too rich for our blood. You know, I think the Niners can find better value than Andrew Norwell. Yeah, he's a good player, but I think there's better value out there for this team, and they could address other needs with that extra money. So if I was the 49ers, and you're looking at an offensive guard, because God knows we need him, because Zane Beadles is absolute garbage, you got to look at a guy like a Josh Sitton, veteran guy from the Chicago Bears who's a free agent, formerly of the Packers. You know, he's a stud. He's 31 years old. He can still play, and he can come a lot cheaper than Andrew Norwell. He's on the back half of his career. He's going to want to win some games. He's going to want to go to a contender, and, you know, things are shaping up nicely out here in the Bay Area, if you ask me. So I think Josh Sitton could be a guy the Niners could look at. They could also look at a guy like Josh Klein from the Tennessee Titans. Haven't heard a lot of Niner fans talk about him. He's a younger guy, I believe 27, 28 years old. You know, the Titans have had a really good run game. We want to establish that run. I think Josh Klein would be a good option. So, you know, those are a couple names on the offensive guard list that I think the Niners could look at for sure. You know, so it all depends. It's going to be crazy coming out here in free agency these next few days. I cannot wait, especially after that Richard Sherman news. Man, the Niners are in the driver's seat in free agency. We have so much money, fellas, so much money, and so many, you know, assets, and just, we can do whatever we want in free agency, people, even after getting Richard Sherman. And again, I want Allen Robinson in the red and gold in the worst way. Oh, man, we sign Allen Robinson, you guys are going to see me flip out because, man, we can get that kid out here in San Francisco. I am not. The Rams think they're cute going after Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. Hey, That don't matter because we would have Allen Robinson, Pierre Garçon, Marquise Goodwin, Trent Taylor, even Kendrick Bourne. This wide receiving core, if you add Allen Robinson, is something dangerous. And I don't think the St. Louis Rams would be ready for it. So John Lynch, Parag Marathe, Jed York, Kyle Shanahan, pull out your wallets these next couple of days. Spare no expense. Make this team great again and go get Allen Robinson. You heard it here first, people. We need that kid. With that, I will catch you guys later. Let me know your thoughts in the description box down below on free agents you think the Niners should sign. Let me know about the guys you think that I'm interested in. Let me know your thoughts on what I think the Niners should do as well. With that, it's JD, Hog Hater TV. I can't wait for free agency, people.